These Barricade HD flat fender flares are for those of you that have a 2007 and up JK and are looking for not only a flat flare, but also a metal flat fender flare. Now there are two different schools of thought when it comes to a metal flare like this. One is that the metal flare will of course hold up better than a plastic flare when it makes contact with an obstacle off-road. The other is that because this is metal and it won't bend, flex, or break when you make contact with an obstacle, it will transfer that impact from the flare into the body, causing a much more expensive repair. So depending on which school of thought you fall into, these might be a really nice way of protecting your Jeep and also changing up the look. A flat flare in general will give your wheel wells a much more open look, almost giving the appearance of having more lift than you actually do. And on top of that, you will have some more up travel of your suspension before the tire makes contact with the fender flare. So a lot of good reasons to install a flat flare, and these metal flares will have the added durability that a plastic flare won't have. In general, these are going to be a less expensive option for a metal flat flare than some of the other ones on the market, while still being very well built. These flares are made of 1.5mm steel covered in a textured black powder coat finish, which is going to match a lot of the other aftermarket accessories you might bolt onto your Jeep, as well as a lot of those factory plastic black accents that are on it right out of the factory. Now, these flares are going to provide a little bit of a more open wheel well, like we talked about, a little bit of additional up travel of your tire, but they're also going to provide a little bit more tire coverage than those factory flares will. They're actually a little bit wider, which is a really nice feature that's going to keep your tires from throwing quite as much junk up on the side of the Jeep, which can cause some damage. So getting these installed is going to be a 2 out of 3 wrenches because of that little bit of drilling that you need to do. Other than that, this is going to be a very simple process. The first step in the installation is of course removing those factory flares from your Jeep, and in order to do that you'll have to remove a couple of screws that hold your inner fender liners in place up front, remove all of the nut and bolt hardware that hold your factory flares onto the Jeep, and also of course remove the wiring from your front turn signal and get that out of the way before just giving the fender flares a pull and removing them from your Jeep. Now when you do remove those, chances are you're going to break most, if not all, of the factory plastic clips that hold the fender flares onto your Jeep. That's inevitable. It's very difficult to do this on installation without breaking those clips, and you're not going to need any of them for the installation of your new flares, so don't worry if you break those. In the rear, the process is very much the same to get those completely removed from the Jeep. And the next step will be removing any of the residual plastic from the holes in the side of your Jeep. Any of those plastic clips that might have a little bit of leftover pieces, you'll want to get all of that out of the way before you start your install. Then you can hold your fender flare up into its location and use the nut and bolt hardware as well as the included rivet nuts to get these installed on your Jeep. Up front, you do have one hole to drill all the way down near the bottom, and in the back there are a couple of dimples in the body and some self-tapping screws you'll have to run in. So again, a little bit of drilling that you will have to do to get these installed properly. Now there won't be any specialty tools that are necessary to get this job done. However, if you've ever installed rivet nuts before, you know that using the proper tool for the job will make this a lot easier and a lot less frustrating for you. So if you either purchased one, you already have one, or you can actually rent them a lot of times for free, that would be a good idea. Again, definitely not necessary, but it'll help speed things along and make it a little bit easier. A set of 4 of these flares will be around $300, which is significantly less expensive than some of the other sets on the market. Some of those others can cost more than double what these ones cost. I do think with these flares you are getting a high quality set of flares. They are going to fit well and they're going to get the job done. However, if you're looking for a little bit more fit and finish or a few more bells and whistles, then maybe one of the more expensive options is better. So if you're looking for a less expensive set of metal flat fender flares for your JK, I definitely recommend taking a look at the Barricade HD flat flares that you can find right here at extremeterrain.com.